Disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed on Nerd Talk do not reflect those of Anime Herald. Due to strong language, listener discretion is advised. Now sit back and enjoy the show. Well, hey everybody, it's time for Nerd Talk again. I'm Mike Furr, and I'm joined by Matt Brown, Dorian Chadwick, and Anthony Simpson. And tonight we have a special guest, LB Bryant of Otaku Review. Say hi.
Hi.
And before we begin, why don't you tell us a little bit about Otaku Review?
Otaku Review originally opened on August 31st, 2005 with a few hundred reviews and an interview with a voice actress, and from there it's grown by leaps and bounds. It now hosts over 600 reviews, posts daily content on news, various features, and I took a little break for a couple of years so that I could work for some other websites, but as of August 31st of this year, which was my 9-year anniversary as an anime blogger, it is back with a vengeance.
Fantastic.
I definitely understand the taking a break part. I think I'm still on break. Kind of, technically.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I was working with Otaku Review, and another website offered me a job that was paying a lot more than what Otaku Review was making at the time, so it was just kind of a natural progression for me to step up with my career. And then, I tried to keep up with both, but it just didn't work out, so yeah, I ended up kind of dropping off with Otaku Review for a while. I kept it open, but I just didn't do anything with it until earlier this year when I decided that I wanted to go back to being my own boss again.
I definitely understand that too. Cool.
All right, well, I guess I'll open the night with the burning question that we always ask. What are you watching?
All right, I'll start. Well, other than finishing up most of the shows that I was watching for the current season, I'm going to talk about the stuff that I finished that wasn't from the season. Well, I finally finished Love Live! School Idol the first season, and I have to say I really enjoyed that. I didn't think I'd be huge into idol. I guess, as I mentioned in our last show, I'm not huge into idol anime, and I just gave this more of as a whim because I kept seeing people post pictures on Twitter, and I'm like, fine, I'll watch the damn thing, and I was actually very surprised how good it was. I'm going to watch the second season here before the year's out. I just want to wait until the mess that's known as the start of the anime season gets done with, and then I'll probably start it. In other areas, things I watched, I checked out the movie How, which was Wit Studios' first production. For first show, or first title, it wasn't bad. I thought it was actually pretty good, but it's only an hour long, and that the length, unfortunately, resulted in the ending being kind of rushed really fast in about 10 minutes. And I think if they had more time, I think they could have fleshed the ending out better. But I didn't hate... A lot of people seem to hate the ending. I didn't... I mean, I could see what people would hate about it, but I actually didn't think it was terrible. The last new show I finished, well, not new, backlog stuff. Actually, I finished it this morning. Was Hetalia: The Beautiful World. Now, I really don't like short anime for the most part. Most of it I just don't find funny, or I have just trouble getting into it. But Hetalia was something I was always able to get into, and then this one I thought was just, it was more of the same, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I enjoyed it. I thought it was funny. Otherwise, still working on Toradora. However, though, I did actually start one new show. It's from the summer season. That's shown in Hollywood. Now, I don't know why I started this, because I'm not really... I'm not huge up on shows where it's just basically all, that the whole cast is mostly male. It's not my thing, and I checked it out. The first episode wasn't terrible. Something I'm probably going to watch here just probably before the rest of the fall season starts. One more thing, and I'll be done talking about what I'm watching. Really, just finished up the second half of Attack on Titan, and I have to say that English dub is just fucking phenomenal. It's probably Funimation's best work at least their best dub in a long time, I think. Everybody sounded great. Jessica Cavallo, she nailed her role, Zoe, perfectly. And I say for the site visitors, do check out in the future. I should have a review up for that here shortly. All right. So what have you guys been watching?
How about you, LB?
Let's see. Well, I'm finishing off a few shows from the summer season. Blue Spring Ride, Free Season 2. I just finished Monthly Girls Nozaki-kun, like a week or so ago. Hana Yamada, I'm finishing off. So those will all be done probably by the end of the weekend. Continuing shows, I'm watching Akame ga Kill, Sailor Moon Crystal, and Sword Art Online 2. I'm really enjoying all of those. Sailor Moon Crystal, even with its occasionally janky animation, I'm still really enjoying it. I'm also watching stuff that isn't from this last season. Haibane Renmei, I'm watching that for a podcast that I'll be recording for my site here in the near future. And then I'm also currently digging in on Cat's Eye Season 1 and Watamote, which I'll be reviewing probably in the near future.
Haibane, that's a title I haven't heard anybody talk about for a while.
Yeah, it's just one of those shows that I always meant to watch, and then for this podcast it got recommended to me, so it's like, alright, I guess it's about time that I checked it out.
I want to say, have tissues ready or something.
Yeah, I actually own that.
Well, not.
I need to watch it.
I should qualify that. Don't have tissues ready for the normal reason, not the Japanese anime fan reason.
I gathered what you meant, but thank you for clarifying.
What did you think about Blue Spring Ride? I confess, I dropped it after about 4 episodes.
I've been really enjoying it. It's a really fun shoujo romp. It's got its charming moments. It's got its funny moments. It's got its sad moments. I'm not going to spoil anything, but it's had some great moments here throughout, and I'm gonna see how it ends. I only got 1 episode left, but at this moment, I'm hoping that it gets a second season.
And what are your thoughts on Cat's Eye, out of curiosity?
Cat's Eye, I'll openly admit that normally I have kind of a bias for older anime. I've never really been huge on it, but this was something that was sent to me, and so it's another show that I wanted to give a really fair chance. And at the moment, I'm having difficulties with it just because I'm not digging the episodic format of it. I think that if it had a long-running story arc, I could get into it a little bit more, because I really am digging the premise. I like the idea of the female group of thieves trying to escape from the law while stealing various things. I like the premise, but the episodic format of it is losing me a little bit, so I'm working my way through it slowly.
The second season does correct that a bit. Because they try and kind of funnel a story through as they get to the inevitable conclusion. So it might click for you to get closer to that.
Okay, yeah, it's still 30 something episodes that I've got to get through. So we'll see what happens.
Definitely.
It kind of reminds me of how City Hunter moved to a. In their second season, they did 2-episode arcs pretty frequently. I think they recognized that people weren't really digging the case of the week as much as the studio wanted them to, so they changed it up a bit.
Yeah, pretty much the case, actually. I remember watching Cat's Eye many years ago, and it's the exact same effect. Like, they did the same thing where they kind of lightened the tone a little and focused more on building the characters and the situation than just doing that case of the week type of situation.
Yeah, I mean, I would really like to get to know these characters a little bit more, other than, just very occasional little hints or bits that they drop in, like, once every, 2 episodes or so for a few seconds at a time. I would love it if they spent more time developing the characters rather than spending a lot of time talking about this is the plot that we're hatching and we're going to spend the next 15 minutes going over it and then doing our daring escape and everything. It's like, you got great characters here. Let me get to know them a little bit.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right. How about you guys? Matt, Dorian, what are you guys watching?
Dorian, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. I'm watching. The standards. Gami got killed. Sailor Moon Crystal. I got to catch up with that last episode. I'm kind of behind a little bit. And Sword Art Online. Besides the Xenon Ass Online, has actually been pretty good.
The latest episode, I think, is causing quite a shitstorm.
Yeah, I've already seen A&N's little review on them. So,
yeah, I saw the thing, and I'm like, am I not a bad person? Because that didn't bother me.
Would it be spoilerish to discuss the shitstorm? I don't know this shitstorm.
It would be, so I'm not going to. I will not say it. It's just.
I appreciate that. I haven't seen the latest episode yet. I had to work all day today.
Yeah, let's just say the last few episodes, some things happen, and a lot of people don't like it.
Okay.
I will not. That's all I will say.
Yeah, been watching that. I've got into what was it? How you pronounce it? Is it Barakamon?
Yeah, Barakamon.
Yeah, Barakamon. Yeah.
I just finished up today.
Yeah, I just started that today.
How do you like that?
I thought it seems to be pretty good. Like, I don't normally watch slice of life shows, but that first episode actually seems somewhat interesting. I'm actually curious to see where it goes from here.
Yeah,
that's going to be the thing.
I finished it up today. I'm just going to straight up say it. I think that's the best show of the season. It's probably one of my top shows for the year, and now I've added to my all-time favorites list. I've added that because show is so good, and I like the fact that they actually used real children to dub the little kid characters. I thought that was a nice touch.
Okay. And let's see, the last show I'm watching is a show that's still going. That's just ended today. Captain Earth. Boy, oh boy, got prepared for that last episode.
Congratulations on making it all the way through that.
like I was telling these guys earlier, I had to Wikipedia what the villains were, but even that Wikipedia page seemed to have a little bit of a gap. It's like, okay, I understand that part, but there's this gap here. Okay, don't explain the gap. It's cool. It's whatever.
Okay. The information will get better as all the nerds analyze the thing from every which angle.
Yeah, that's what I'm waiting on. It's like, I kind of get it, what they were trying to do, but they didn't lay it out enough. But yeah, that's what happened there. So yeah.
Yeah, maybe not the best coverage, but early on I was like, you know what? The way they say Earth, it sounds a lot like ass. So I'm just going to call this Captain Ass from now on.
And the name stuck.
Yeah.
All right. So what are you watching, Matt?
Let's see. I'm not watching much of anything right now. I found it weird. I felt like I was watching a lot of stuff through the season, but it wasn't. It mostly wasn't stuff that was from this season. So when it came to the end, it's like, well, okay, I'll Know Zero ended last week, and it's clearly not going to be back until the spring season because they said in the not so fine print that was the case.
I thought it was winter season next year.
Or winter, excuse me. Yeah, January.
January.
Yeah, because a lot of people didn't like that ending, it seemed.
It's like, well, for normal people, winter begins in December, not January. But yeah. Okay. So yeah, I don't know how people really like the ending. I thought, well, it was an ending, and it wasn't much of an ending. But it's like they had to say they were continuing it because it wasn't much of an ending. That's all I'll say. And there's SAO, which is, I could tell that even I don't know what they're going to do after this latest episode, but the season's over and the arc doesn't seem to be completely over, so they may do like they did with the original arc and extend it a couple episodes and then do something shorter for the rest of the next season. It's
right, because I keep hearing things like Mother Rosario is going to be animated. I'm not really sure what because I know it's continuing on to. I figure it'll probably end up. It'll probably finish up next season, so I don't know what arc they're going to do. I'm hoping it's Mother Rosario, because in that one, Asuna is the main character and Kirito is not seen as much.
I was going to say about this episode that I would say there were a couple of scenes that played out very well. And in my mind, the rest was fucking terrible. It's the end of the season, even if this arc isn't over, so I can't really say anything about it. Just, I liked it and I really didn't like it at the same time. The rest of what I've been watching is Akame ga Kill. I pretty much resigned myself to the fact that this is it's a show for teenage boys, and it follows the same formula, and given that context, I like it well enough. I think it does fine. But it's not something that I would really, spread to friends and the like as far as things they should watch. And the one surprise for me, and it's a little bit behind. It's only like 10 episodes at this point. Is Nobunaga Concerto, and it's really hard to describe what this show has accomplished in my mind. It's just it follows obviously it follows the story of Nobunaga, and it throws in a twist that what we know of as Nobunaga is really this teenage boy named Saburo who gets sent back in time, and the real Nobunaga, who's sick, comes back later as Mitsuhide Akichi, and I think anybody who knows even a little bit about Japanese history knows what's going to happen there. But I think it's interesting. There's other characters that show up that reveal themselves to him, to Saburo, to be also from the future, and it's like, I don't know how or why this is happening, but it's both weird and interesting and cool at the same time. And the other thing is the way that Saburo acts as Nobunaga is weird. It makes you wonder about his character, that he fills the role so perfectly, but you don't really know what he's thinking. It's like you're an outsider in the whole thing. And that I find really interesting. That's pretty much it for me.
And for me, this is probably the first week in a while where I've watched more than one or two shows, just because I've been, really, really busy. But for me, it was the final episode of Kindaichi. Wonderful show, by the way. If you like mysteries, highly recommend it. I've been watching a few episodes of Sengoku Collection for an upcoming review. The past couple days, I actually did some catch-up. I started binge-watching Weekly Girl Nozaki-kun. Something like 7 or 8 episodes went down in the course of 24 hours, so...
Nice. I was going to say, I totally forgot about that that show. I was going to watch it because of something I heard on your show, LB. One of your, I think it was Day. He said that it was his surprise or his top show of the season. I forget.
Yeah, I can't remember which one he labeled it as, but I do remember him mentioning that.
It really is good. It's genuinely funny. There's this whole sense of like this wink and a nod to the audience that really, really works well. I recommend it. In addition, I've been doing some catch up on Sabagebu.
What are your thoughts on that one, Mike?
I'm enjoying it. It's a quirky show. It's got almost a School Rumble-ish sense of humor to it, which I really dig.
Yeah, I thought some of the humor was hit or miss, but I mean, I finished up last week. I thought, when it finished airing on Sunday, and I thought it was pretty good.
It's a very fun show.
Yeah,
Actually,
I really enjoyed it.
I actually forgot about that show. I watched the first episode tonight and really enjoyed it.
I forgot to mention it as well. I finished it about a week ago, and I enjoyed it so much more than I ever thought I would when it started.
I mean, I knew I was going to enjoy it because, I mean, I like C3 Boo more than what other people, because a lot of people seem to hate that show for some reason, and I relatively like that one. And I'm like, well, I know I'm going to like Saw Big Boo because I liked C3 Boo, and yeah, I wasn't disappointed.
Yeah, that was actually the reason why I thought that I wasn't gonna like Sabagebu, because I didn't like C3, but I gave it a chance anyway for whatever reason, and yeah, I ended up really digging it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. For those that haven't seen it, it's a quirky show, but it works so well.
It does.
Other than that, I finished up a couple of the short forms, Strange Plus, Yamishibai, and I, My, Me, Mouse of Catastrophe. I can't really say much about them because they're short form, and, your mileage may definitely vary. But
About Strange Plus,
Yep.
I watched a few episodes of that, and I found it mildly funny. Would you say that? Would you agree with that to begin with? And if so, would you say that it has higher ups as it goes on? Like, does it get more funny? Does it stay pretty much consistent, etc.?
it's pretty consistent. It doesn't really get that high up, unfortunately. I think it really is held back by its format. I mean, there are a couple of episodes that are really funny, but generally it's consistent, mildly funny, fairly inoffensive show.
Inoffensive.
Well,
Who wants that?
quote unquote inoffensive. I mean, this is a show where your first episode you have them running through a mansion where butts come exploding out of doors.
Yeah, literal butts and nothing else.
Yep, just butts.
No ass dance.
No ass dance.
Yeah, in order to dance, you have to have something other than an ass.
Exactly. And other than a requisite Sailor Moon, I sat down with a little OVA that I kind of wondered why I never watched it again after saw it the first time, and then I rediscovered why I don't watch it anymore.
What's that, Mike?
It's a 3-episode OVA by Sakura Wars creator Oji Hiroi. So that's probably why I bought it, considering I'm just a Sakura Wars fan. But anyway, it's a series called Virgin Fleet.
I honestly thought that there was no other person in the world who had seen that besides me.
Oh, this is recent. He got that at Anime Boston this year.
Yep. So, for the uninitiated, Virgin Fleet is a 3-episode OVA that is set shortly after World War One-ish, that period, like after the Russian advance on Japan. In this world, it's like Sakura Wars, it's an alternate telling of that kind of world, but instead of steam power this time, we have magic power. And not just any magic power, we have virgin magic power. By that I mean, there are certain specific gifted women in this world that can use incredible magic powers, but it's only if they're virgins. So, basically, to help keep the country safe in a time of a ceasefire, the group formed the Virgin Fleet, which is a group of 36 virgins who are magically powered, piloting planes, and using their virgin magic to fight off the Russians. I mean, in the course of one episode, I counted the use of the word virgin around 136 times, I think, or something like that. It's some incredibly high number, because a typical conversation flow went like this. Character, talk, then it's, so you got the virgin energy. Yes, but that means I'm a real virgin. And what do you mean real virgin? Well, only virgin can use the virgin power because the virgin power is only applicable to virgins. And it goes on like that for 5 to 6 minutes at a time. And it never gets good. I mean, you kind of sit there hoping that you're not going to be looking at this train wreck for too long, but you're just stuck there. It's like...
So just to be clear, if if they lose a fight against these Russians, does that mean that they're carrying Russian babies?
Well, that's another one. Episode 2, there's a Russian woman that looks like M. Bison that goes to Japan. She starts making jokes about raping them so they lose their powers.
I now regret asking that question.
Oh man, that is.
Oh man, speaking of OG Hiroi, I totally didn't like give you guys the full story of what I watched, obviously. That guy, I'm just gonna say, he doesn't seem to have done anything good ever since when he stopped working with Kosuke Fujishima. So the latest thing I watched is called Karen Senki, and it's all 3D, which my first thought was, well, that's bad enough, but it's OG Hiroi, so I should watch it. And it's just not good in any stretch of the term. It's it's this lady that she loses her younger sister to like a robot war or something, and her whole thing is fighting back against the robots, and apparently she is somewhat effective at it, because the first episode is all about her getting ambushed everywhere she goes, even at home, and she doesn't die, and there's that's about it. I didn't really see anything of value going forward, so I'm not going to watch that show.
I'm sorry, that just sounds terrible.
Oh, I gotta get in quick shameless self-promotion. Do check out my latest review for Knights of Sidonia.
Definitely do.
Yeah, I had a lot of trouble with that one, but do check it out.
Is that Hiroi too?
No, I had no. When you mentioned the 3D CG, I'm like, oh, I gotta get in. Like I said,
so you're putting in a plug for something completely random, not related to the conversation.
Yes, 'cause that's what I do.
To be fair, what he's plugging is actually good.
Yeah, true, that is something you should check out. Even if you don't, if you can get past the 3D CG, do check it out. It is really amazing.
So yeah. OG Hero can't do anything outside of Sakura Wars.
It really seems that way.
I mean,
didn't he do the Moeo Ken too?
He did Moeo Ken,
and you said that was also fairly awful.
Yep. The only redeeming feature is the OVA where they had the Batmobile, because it had the white Batmobile.
They had the Batmobile.
It was the Batmobile.
I might watch this.
I mean, it's Kido Shinsen Gume Moyo Ken OVA.
I might have to check this out just to see the Batmobile.
Oh yes, the mobile Shinsengumi.
Yep.
I mean, I don't mind when
because they really came down on the right side of history.
Hey, I don't mind checking out stuff if it has a bunch of references, which apparently I think it was episode 3 of Tokyo SP at the Ghostbusters.
True.
Except for that one guy, I can't remember his name now, but
yeah, he's not lying. It really is the Batmobile.
That looks similar.
Yeah. OG Hero can't do anything outside of Sakura Wars. We've kind of seen he either does something that's generally bad or something that makes you feel creepy. So I think we can all, or both. Yeah, I think we can all kind of agree on that one. Any objections?
Nah.
Works for me.
Yeah, it's fine for me.
As long as I don't have to watch Virgin Fleet, I'm good.
Actually, you want to know the worst part about Moeo Ken? Guess who did the character designs?
Who?
Take a guess. Just a wild guess.
Didn't Fujishima himself do those?
No, that was Rumiko Takahashi.
Oh, that.
Well, I guess can't all be winners. I guess
I should have realized that she did that. That's definitely, just looking at this, that's definitely her.
All right, getting away from the horrors of Virgin Fleet. Earlier this week, Production IG's parent company announced that they're going to be opening a new studio next month. The studio known as Signal MD is going to be starting with about $280,000 in capital, and they will be developing tech for like a full digital animation and smart devices. Primarily, they're trying to create a foundation for family and kid-centric shows. The head of the studio will be Katsuji Morishita. I'm probably butchering the pronunciation, but anyway, who helmed Blood Sea and Oblivion Island, Haruka and the Magic Mirror. So, because it's a new studio from Prussian IG, Zebek, Wit Studios, parent, and they tend to do some amazing things. I kind of wanted to open this up to discussion. So, what do you think, guys?
Wait, isn't anime already kid-centric?
Well, some is.
I mean, in the wrong possible way, but, you know.
Ouch.
Now, this isn't a knock at me being a lolicon, is it?
No, right? No.
I think they're trying to target child viewers. I was just making a little joke.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's Production IG. I mean, they do good work, and even their subsidiaries, while they vary sometimes, like Zebex.
Yeah.
And
Well,
Wit doesn't have enough of a resume of stuff they've done for me to really give them what I call a opinion of them yet.
honestly, I would say Zebek does pretty well compared to subsidiaries like B Train.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you like fan service shows, Zebex is where to go. I mean, they do produce some good ones, and they produce some even some really good like Fafner, which is obviously not a fan service title, and
I mean, I would admit, I have a soft spot for them because they did Love Hina.
True.
As far as the topic at large, I'm not sure what to think about this other than, it seems like a good idea. IG in particular, and all of the companies they're associated with tend to incorporate tech a little bit earlier than the other studios do anyway. Maybe they're trying to just speed up the evolution of that tech, and it seems like it could be good for them.
I also see it as a smart move to start targeting the kids shows because it seems to be like that one market that they're really not hitting too hard. They've definitely got the adult crowd and the hardcore fan crowd with their mainline Production IG and stuff like Zebek. So to see them hit that kids crowd, they'll probably be able to start chasing that early morning slot, which is incredibly profitable because you can get merchandise tied and get stuff like sponsorships for, like, say, stuff like Yokai Watch or similar properties where they do get some form of revenue share in there.
I almost feel bad for the CG studios. And this is only a little bit related, but they have to do so much work compared to the traditional animation studios to even get something that barely passes as broadcast quality. I just wanted to throw that out there. I know, I think it makes sense to try and advance that art and try and find ways to make that easier and cheaper and something that will take less time.
Right, because I mean, let's be fair. Most of the time that Japan does, at least does any type of like 3D CG on TV, it generally doesn't look very good. Now, License Sidonia got better as it went along, but it still had its problems. Like, characters walking still kind of is real jaggedy. Now, I've seen Haruka and the Magic Mirror, and that's a 3D CG movie, and that actually looked pretty good. It wasn't Pixar level 3D CG, but I mean, it was actually very good. Like, it didn't have like the jankiness that you see in it, and again, probably because time and budget being one, I think being the big reason. It looked a lot better now. We all know that TV animation, they don't have or TV animated, sorry. They don't have huge budgets, so when they do CG, it tends to be somewhere between eye cancer level inducing, this makes you want to gouge your eyes out, to, well, that's not so bad. And maybe this will make the better CG, or maybe make how do I say this, make it easier for CG to be done cheaper, but still look good, or maybe not cheaper, but actually improve it so it doesn't look it doesn't look so janky and so like so jarring at times.
Well, and that was kind of my point, that it looks janky and jarring because it's really not easy to do this stuff cheaply. It still isn't yet. Like you talked about, you mentioned Pixar, but
but they got money.
Their budgets are in the hundreds of millions.
Yeah, but that maybe was a bad compare. Well, that was more my comparison with Haruka the Magic Mirror, which is a movie that was done in 3D CG, and then like I said, it's not Pixar level, but again, they have Disney money, so they got like more money than probably most of the Japanese studios are ever going to have access to, so they can do. Plus, they probably have also a lot more people working on them.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, they do some incredible things with those budgets, but even they will, like, you can tell the sorts of corners they cut. When it comes to things like facial expressions or even the shape of a face.
Right.
There are still things that are really difficult and expensive to animate in CG. And Pixar knows the field well enough to avoid those things, within their budgets.
Right, because I made this complaint about Nice to Sidonia that early on, and even some of the other things, that because of the 3D CG for everything, some of like the facial expressions and like they almost have to give off an uncanny valley feel, like, or to quote something a lot of you see with the Transformers discussion, dull surprise, where they're shocked, but there's just like there's no emotion to the surprise. Like somebody might die and they're just like their mouth's open, but there's like there's no like there's no like emotion in it. It just exists.
It's more like he's dead. Wants to go for waffles.
Yeah, well, you've seen Knights of Sidonia, like, you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about. I'm just trying to make a snacky quip.
I mean, but then again, that's again, like Matt said, it's a limit of CG with money. I mean, like I said, Pixar has been doing stuff for like that for a while, so they're able to work with some of it where TV animation or anime, they don't have that kind of budget anywhere near it, and obviously a lot shorter schedules. So you got to take them shortcuts.
I wouldn't characterize it as shortcuts so much as there really are no shortcuts in CG. There's only as far as you can get, and that's it.
Okay, well, maybe that's a better way to put it. As far as what they can get with the budget they have and the time.
Definitely, and I know you mentioned earlier they had like the Juddy Walk, which is actually more of a frame rate issue because they're still trying to work at a 24 frames per second, but it just doesn't match up too well in a lot of cases with CGI because it looks bad in CGI. They'd have to go to a higher frame rate.
What? Right. 24 frames is fine. I mean, the anime standard is 12 frames. That's a little bit low.
True.
Anyway, I think we kind of dragged this out a little bit.
Yeah. And any thoughts, LB?
Well, I'm all in favor of their initial ideas. I think that trying to develop new tech and expand into family-friendly territory is totally a fantastic idea. I'm all on board with that. The only thing about this story that made me tilt my head a little bit, and not in the weird Shaft way, but more in the curious puppy way, was, forgive me if this sounds a little ignorant, but doesn't that sound like a little low of an amount for starting capital, for starting a new studio? It seems like seemed like a low amount.
I think it really underscores that we have no idea what their mandate really is, or that the parent company, as you might be suggesting, is expecting them to fail.
Well, I'm not sure if I'm, trying to suggest that they're expecting them to fail. It just seems like a low amount to start a new venture with such lofty goals as developing new tech and expanding into a market which doesn't get tapped that often. So, yeah, I mean, it just seems like if they were really wanting to go after this, they might try to put a little more capital into it, or so either that, or it's a little disappointing that that's all that they were able to raise from third-party sources, possibly. So yeah, so it makes me a little worried.
Yeah, it makes me think about the Under the Dog Kickstarter that we've been following. They were raising money to make one episode of animation, and I don't know the details of whether it's just going to be digital painting or if there's going to be some CG involved, but they were raising $580,000.
There is going to be some CG involved because they got I think it's a Kinema Citrus helping out.
Okay, so if you compare that, that's the budget for one 24-minute episode of animation, compared to compared to IG just created this entire new studio with a third of that money, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting point.
It is an interesting point.
It is.
But, if their mandate is to develop tech, 280 grand, that gives you money to pay a few programmers, and if that's what they're focusing on, then that could be fine for a little while. It's really hard to say. It just depends on what they're actually doing, and I don't think we have the full picture on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true.
I have a feeling we're going to hear a lot more about this as the months go on. As the month goes on, because they're opening next month. Am I correct?
That's what the original article said.
All right, yeah. So I would be shocked if IG Pro didn't start really trying to hype the studio up because they like their new toys.
Yeah, and I would just say that the IG subsidiaries, they may not each individually contribute the same amount to the overall company as the flagship, but they all seem to do. They all seem to benefit the parent company in some way, just from the little bit that I've followed them. They all provide value, is what I'm trying to say.
That makes sense.
But just in retrospect, this may not be news at all. It's really hard to say.
That's true. If they're going to focus on, kid-centric programming, it's not likely that they're going to be producing series that are going to be of huge interest to, the hardcore fans.
Yeah, I'm more interested in what their discoveries could bring to the rest of the company, personally. All right, and I guess we can move on. Earlier this week, ANN reported that Attack on Titan is scheduled to end in 3 years. I mean, this is something we had heard before, because Isayama's editor mentioned that the serialization was slated to end within 3 to 4 years, but this is the first time we heard it from Isayama himself in recent months, I should say. In an interview with Da Vinci Magazine, Isayama said that he actually originally intended for the series to run for about 16 volumes, but he extended his plan so he could properly depict the emotional narrative and to really grow the characters themselves, the ever-expanding cast. He said he'd personally like to end the tale in about 3 years after about 20 volumes. Anyway, I figured I'd bring this one up for discussion because it did seem kind of interesting at the time, and it's Attack on Titan, and everybody loves Attack on Titan almost.
Well, I've never read the manga, so I'm gonna preface that. I've never read the manga. I'm only familiar with the anime product. I really do hope that it ends, and I don't say this because I want to see something. I like Attack on Titan, but I've criticized it too. Something I like when it ends, but I don't want to also see it get to the point where it's like One Piece. We're gonna end this years ago, and then it's like later, oh yeah, we're gonna end at some point, and then it just keeps dragging out and dragging out and dragging out, and it just keeps it doesn't get anywhere near the end. I do hope that does come to some form of conclusion. And I do hope we get slightly different, because I'm not going to talk about the manga here. I do hope we actually get more seasons of the anime, and I think we're going to, because I don't think the groups are involved. I don't think they hate money, so I think they're just going to keep probably making more of it. I'd probably guess. I'd probably think they finished the whole story out.
Well, I'm just going to interject for a second. They actually have been making more anime. There have been at least 3 OVAs since the last episode aired.
Right.
So I wouldn't be surprised if they're continuing to fund that production. I wouldn't be surprised if they're trying to get together a production committee for another season, because those actually work very well as a bridge between this first season and a potential second.
I don't think we'll hear anything about another season, at least until the second movie's done. Because supposedly, and I hear this as a rumor, supposedly that it's the second season, supposedly, and I think the author himself said this, that the second season's been greenlit already. But like I said, I don't think we'll hear anything official until after that second movie's done. Because I think they're going to focus on the OVAs, which I actually haven't watched. Because I got the 2 compilation films coming up. And I hope they get licensed, because I want to see them. And I think probably once the second one's done, you'll hear about it then. I think then you'll hear about potential second season. Like I said, if they hate money, they won't make another season. They won't make any more of that. I mean, because it's not like there's not enough source material. There's enough source material to continue the story.
Oh yeah, I remember back at the beginning they were kind of worried about that, but it's really picked up steam since then. They could easily do a second season and possibly a third with what they have.
Right, because I've seen some people on AMN, I won't mention names, not writers for the site, but forum users have mentioned that they probably could do even like maybe 3, even potentially 4 seasons if they split it right. I'm like, well, you don't want to stretch it out too much, but I think 2 or 3 would probably be, at least 3. I think 3 would work, and maybe depending on how they end it, maybe like a movie, or even maybe like a short, like maybe like just like a standard 12-episode season might even to end it out might work.
Definitely.
I guess it's just going to depend on how much source material there's left, and if they really, if it really does end in 3 years and not like, keep going forever like One Piece.
Yeah, I'm actually wouldn't be surprised if it ends in about 3 years, because Isayama seems dead set on getting this thing done and out, because it seems like he doesn't want to become the next One Piece in that regard either. He wants it to be...
Because I think if it goes that way, it's really going to, I think, ruin the franchise if it just goes like One Piece, which I'm not knocking against One Piece. If you like that, that's great. But something like this, I don't... Like, the Shonen Jump stuff, them going on just makes sense. I don't want to say it makes sense, but those seem more suited to do like be very, very long running. Now, it's not to say this isn't, but
something like this we're splitting it. We're splitting hairs here. Titan is not your typical Shonen Jump affair,
right? Well, it's not Shonen Jump. I mean, it's a Shonen series.
Something like One Piece definitely transcends the whole idea of finishing. It's gonna go until it stops making money. It was designed that way. And Titan is not designed that way.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it won't. You're right. It won't go that way. I mean, as popular as this anime was, and the manga's popular too. I mean, it's selling like hotcakes. I can't see that doing that type of One Piece, or even like something like Bleach or Naruto, where it just keeps on going. And I do hope it does end in 3 years, or maybe it does end in 4.
I would even wager that the author was reluctant to agree to do additional volumes, but the difference between 14 and 20-something is not that big of a deal if he has a concrete idea of how he's going to end the thing.
If he does.
As long as he has a beginning, middle, and end.
Well, it really depends. Sorry, Dorian. It really depends on how much, how many bags of money they're throwing at him. It always depends on that.
I assume he's probably getting a lot of bags of money thrown at him.
I think it might actually end under 3 years. I don't think it's going to be 3 years. I think if they'll find a way to end it in under 3 years, he might just go for it. On what he said he wanted to end this in 16 volumes. So you're right, he might get a little sick and tired. Not really sick and tired, but he doesn't want to become like Naruto's and things like that. And with Attack on Titan, it does seem like there is an end to this. There has to be an end to this. I don't think you can really keep a thing like this going on forever without it.
Yeah, because because latest volume 14, just came out like last month.
I don't know about you guys, but I would not want to be the defendant in a breach of contract suit that the company paying me filed against me because I didn't stretch it to 20 volumes.
True.
Anyway, we're kind of getting silly right now. What do you think, LB?
Let me preface this with saying that I haven't read the manga, and I'm not really that big of a fan of Attack on Titan. I haven't even seen all of the first season. I'll probably be finishing it tomorrow. My girlfriend and I plan to just watch the second half. 20 volumes sounds like a pretty solid number, though. I would say that this might, and I emphasize might, mean that they might hold off on announcing the second season until they have a solid ending in mind. If they plan on wrapping it up with the second season. If they do go with a third season or a movie to wrap it up with, then we might get that second season a lot sooner. I remember hearing a rumor somewhere, I don't remember where I heard it, that they wanted to wait until there were at least 15 or 16 volumes out before they started really working on the second season in earnest. And like it was just mentioned, the volume 14 was just released in Japan last month. So, I mean, we could see the second season before long, or we could see it, or it might get delayed depending on how far they want to go with it. If they want to cap off the entire run, then they might wait until this manga is over, which will piss off a lot of fans, I know. But if they decide to not do that, I agree with the point that it's probably going to be announced after the second movie is released. That's a pretty typical way to go. You'll remember like Sword Art Online, for instance, that had its first season, and then there was absolutely nothing until after that New Year special, which recapped things. So I'd say, yeah, it's either going to be right after the second movie or it's going to be a long time after that.
I can't shake the idea that this was a business decision between the publisher of the manga and the studio. Well, maybe not even the studio. The publisher of the manga and the author. And the author, I get the impression he expressed the. He expressed the opinion that he did not want to keep this going forever. He didn't want to make his entire career about this, like, say, Reiji Matsumoto did with Harlock. He didn't want to keep writing Titan forever. So it almost seems like, and I'm speculating a little bit here, but it almost seems like a compromise. Like, the publisher would not want to ever stop doing this because they know how popular it is, but they also value their author enough that they're going to respond to his wishes, and maybe he's even pitched them an idea for the next thing. It's hard to say. It seems like this whole announcement was, not only smart. I agree with ending the thing in a specified time. I think that's healthy, but also I think it's for the sake of the author's sanity, and he doesn't want to keep doing this forever.
Yeah.
I've actually been keeping up with the manga somewhat, and I have to admit that as you get past like volume 9 or 10, I think it is, the ones that cover the actual TV series, it really starts to ramp up. You can tell it's really starting to rush towards a point where it can't go anywhere but to a conclusion. So I do see the 20 volume thing as fairly realistic, to be honest.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think you see in this kind of business, I think you see two kinds of authors. One which is, I would say, I would give examples of the author of Haruhi or Sword Art Online. These guys are completely content in keeping their story going as long as there's a paying audience for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's this guy, and I think he's the opposite. He wants to end it decisively and move on to the next thing. And for all we know, it's going to be just as compelling as the last thing, or maybe it won't be. But he wants to do more than one thing in his career.
And I can definitely respect that, because I mean, while some people are content to do that, it's like I can easily see where being under the thumb of not just one work, but one incredibly popular work can be stifling.
Yeah, I think somebody like I mean, I don't need to keep this going, farther than it used to be, but I think somebody like Matsumoto enjoys the universe that he's created with Harlock, and he enjoys rehashing the story, and I think that he feels he does it better every time. At least that's my impression. And I honestly think he is mostly right about that. Each progressive Harlock work that I've seen of his, it doesn't, within the constraints of the time that he has, I feel like he fits more in. And it seems like he enjoys doing that, but not everybody would enjoy doing that.
Definitely. All right, our final topic of the night. Pony Canyon announced that they were opening a U.S. division. They opened an English language website. Announced their first two products, which are strings for Denkigai no Hone-san and Yuki Yuki wa Yuchidearu, which are both simulcasting on Crunchyroll this fall. Announced that they're going to be releasing DVDs and Blu-rays in 2005 with the promise of
2005?
2015. Sorry.
Say, when did they invent a time machine?
I don't know, but I kind of want it because
Time Lords.
Hey, we take a time machine back and stop ADV from collapsing.
If all you need is a microwave oven, we should all have one. Oh, excuse me, microwave oven and a cell phone. It seems like you need both.
And they're promising, quote unquote, the same high standards of Japanese editions. Pony Canyon's U.S. division will be called Pony Can USA. Now,
best title best name for a company, by the way.
Yeah, before we begin, I can't be the only one that looked at it and said, "Who in their right mind would call their company Horse's Ass?"
Yeah, I like that. I'm just gonna have a lot of fun just saying Pony Can USA, or as I'm gonna call them here, PC USA for from here on out.
Oh, who in their right mind would name something Pony Canyon? It's not like that's any better.
No.
Well, wasn't that like a name gained for like a merger or something like that?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It's like Pony Canyon.
Well, maybe they wanted to attract bronies. Oh, no.
Well, they might.
If they weren't so old, that would be funny.
The 1972 bronies.
No, I take that back. It's funny still, but.
All right, anyway, I just wanted to open this one up for discussion since this is like the big story for the week. We've already got people saying that this is good, this is bad, this is the coming of the Antichrist, this is the coming of the Death Mageddon. We've heard it all already, so I kind of want to hear what you guys think on the matter.
All right, I'll start because I've kind of had a few days to think about this. Now, I always like when we see new companies come in. We had one a few years ago try to, Crimson Star Media, and I don't think I have to explain why that failed. It crashed and burned for reasons I will not get into. That being said, I don't want to be jumping up and down saying this is the best thing ever. Because, one, we don't really know exactly what the releases are going to be. We know that as, quote, high standards as their Japanese editions, but how are they going to release it? Are they going to go the Aniplex America route, or are they going to go the NISA route? Now, I think the market, with them coming in doing these high-end editions, I think that part of the market, that high end premium set, groups doing that, I think is going to be at a saturation point. Maybe it could support one more, but I think 3 would be good. I don't know if it could support 4 at the moment. Now, the 2 shows they have, I'm not interested in seeing. Not because they have it, it's just not something I'm going to check out. Because it's not something I'm interested in the season. Now, I looked at I'm guessing that they're probably going to be, if they go, they're going to probably do some, maybe both, how do I want to word this? Because I'm looking at what they have now for international rights. Because they have it on their website, and they have those 2 shows. But I'm not seeing here a lot of stuff that they're going to go through their backlog that I'd call stuff that people are going to be running to buy. I mean, I don't know how many people are going to be running for a really high-end premium edition of something like, say, Green or cosplayers. I don't think anybody's going to be pulling out their gold cards to buy that.
Yeah, I mean, Green, Media Blasters can't give that away for $10. So
now they do have some Soccer Wars stuff, so I know you'll probably be interested in that. If they go back and do some of their legacy titles, I have a feeling that might not be the case. I have a feeling they might stick with new, like if they do something like Aniplex does and just stick with new titles. Now, if they have a lot of Aniplex's releases work for the reason that they get shows that tend to be, well, at least they're sort of their quasi-singles, I'm going to call them. Those types of releases work because they generally get them for shows that they know they can sell those for. And that's not very many. Your Kill la Kills can sell that. And your Monica Magicas and your SAOs, they could sell like that. Even something from some other groups like Attack on Titan could have Funimation wanted to release it like that. And like I said, quasi-singles, they could have done that. And they could have probably done the same thing for Cowboy Bebop because they know those would have sold well. But you can't do that for every title because it's not going to work. Like, I couldn't have seen that working for, say, something like Fractal or Ari the Scarlet Ammo or even something like Take It From Sentai Amnesia. Those won't work in those types of releases, so I'm not sure how they're going to go. If they get stuff that's really niche and I think they try to go the Aniplex route, I don't know if they'll succeed very well. Or if they'll succeed... I mean, that might be wrong, and they might succeed going that way.
I was going to say, yeah. I don't necessarily agree that that Funimation would have done well to break up Cowboy Bebop, because I feel like all of their goodwill with fans is on very thin ice at all times, and they wouldn't, they might have made Aniplex numbers by milking it, but they wouldn't have made Funimation numbers by milking it.
Right, I'm saying they could have, but they didn't, thankfully.
On top of that, the Cowboy Bebop thing would have actually inspired probably a lot of ill will and anger, because don't forget, people were going off on Aniplex just not too long ago because they were doing the same thing with Gurren Lagann, which can currently be had for like $50 on DVD, and they're trying to sell those quasi singles for 60 something bucks a piece.
Point taken. I mean,
well, that was kind of my point was people. I think Funimation relies on that goodwill from fans. People who buy their stuff believe that Funimation is more or less on their side, and they release a lot of shows. I think that people don't expect much from Aniplex, and there's a lot of there's a handful of people who want the stuff and buy it, and that's perfectly okay. But Funimation is geared at selling to a broader market,
right?
And that's just how it is,
right? And that's why I was. Like I said, I do defend Aniplex, even though I don't buy their stuff because they just don't release things I want. I liked SAO, but I'm not going to buy it. And I know I'm one of like the maybe 10 people that didn't like Monica Magica. And Gurren Lagann's not something I wish to ever see again. But that being said, I do hope I'm the best. I want to see them succeed. I mean, I don't want to I don't want to see them fail like Bound Day Visual did. Although I think we've all learned, the groups have learned their lessons from that. But so yeah, good luck. I hope if they get stuff I'm interested in, I'll get their purchases, or I'll get their products.
Anyway, I lost how we're talking about Pony Canyon.
Because we were them entering the market.
Yes,
Or the U.S. market.
that I understand. I don't know how we winded up at Aniplex.
Well, I was talking about like how because Mike wrote an article on his site about like the top, what do you call like the top group, the premium groups.
The market.
Nisa, yeah, and like Nisa and Aniplex, and I was saying that they're going to enter that tier, but I think that tier probably maybe can handle, maybe not at the moment, maybe potentially one more group, and I think that's it. I might be wrong. I don't think it can really handle a whole bunch of, say, like, I don't think it can handle 10 companies trying to do that. That won't work.
Not at all.
I think Aniplex couldn't handle 10 other companies doing the same thing they do.
No,
but it doesn't mean the market can't handle it.
No, well, I was being kind of exaggerated number. I mean, I don't think they can handle that top tier of just doing premium editions. I don't think at the moment they could do. You could have a whole bunch of players in that. That's all they do.
I'm not sure if any read business books, but it's kind of interesting because this whole discussion is basically what takes place in Christensen's The Innovator's Dilemma, because what we're seeing now is a case of a disrupted market with the advent of streaming through Crunchyroll, Netflix, and Hulu. We've seen a brand new low market come into place that absolutely supplanted what we had for DVDs. So we're starting to see companies like Aniplex and Nisa and possibly Pony Canyon, we don't know yet, retreating to this upmarket, this set of premium releases. These people that are going to definitely pay out more because they see more value in a higher price tag. But it's always going to be a market diminishing returns. So it's one of those cases where it's a very shaky ground. Adding one company will work, maybe two, but if we pull out that middle, the whole structure is going to come crashing down.
Well, I would like to say that I don't think that there's a problem with 10 players in that market necessarily from a market's perspective. I think that it's closer to a zero-sum market in the sense that the more players there are, the less money each player makes. And from a market's perspective, that's not a problem. From the perspective of all the players in the market, sure, that's a problem. But it doesn't affect the overall performance of the anime industry.
Well, from a market perspective, it's a problem too because it creates a red ocean. Basically, what's going to happen is they're going to, going to see those.
It doesn't mean that the entire anime market will be a red ocean. It means that the people who are dealing in premium goods are individually not going to do as well.
Right. At its worst, depending on which direction it ends up pushing, if it ends up leveraging upward, it could see a contraction of that market entirely. So I'm kind of interested in seeing how this plays out.
Anyway, I feel like we've gone a little bit off kilter. But I would like to say that I think that I consider Pony Canyon as I always have considered Pony Canyon as a music production company, and I found this a little bit weird that I honestly didn't know that they had that much of a stake in animation production, but just from review, I realized that they do. I don't really know specifically what their role is, but they've been involved in a lot of productions. So, okay, that's fine. But I still consider them as a music company, and that's what they began as. And I don't really know, honestly, what to think about their pushing into the anime market. I just don't know enough, and that's pretty much all I'd like to say about that.
I mean, Nisa, their parent company is a video game developing company, and now Nisa puts out video games, but then, they kind of went into the anime market, and, their first couple releases there were a few bumps in the road. But now, they're doing pretty well for themselves, I'd say.
True.
I mean, they don't get a huge amount of shows, And
But
I think that
if you ask the average person what NISA is,
Yeah, they're not gonna know.
if they know it all, they would say they're a video game company.
well, their stuff I'd say isn't more mainstream. I'd say their stuff's more.
Yeah,
you know,
well, that's
their
why I
games are
say if they know who NISA is at all,
right.
they consider them a video game localizer because that's the majority of what they do.
Right.
All right. What are your thoughts on the matter, LB?
Well, I agree that I'm not jumping up and down with joy at this, because it's still way too early to tell how this is going to develop. But I think that in the short run, this is a very good thing. It's been a couple of years since we've had a major player enter the market. I think the last real major player that we've had enter the U.S. market was probably Aniplex, if I
Right.
recall correctly.
Right. Because CSM tried to and then they failed, but that was for reasons that had nothing to do with anime.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't consider them a major player.
Well, they never were going to be.
But I think that Pony Canyon has the potential to become a major player in the market. They have series that they can totally market and do, and that haven't been licensed yet. I think they're in for a troublesome first year, though, because they're going to have to win over fans who aren't as familiar with their brand name and only familiar with the titles that they're associated with. And so it's going to take a little while for them to build up the same goodwill that other companies have, like NISA and Funimation and Sentai and, etc. So it's going to be really interesting to cover them for the first year and review their releases and just see how it is. It's going to be fascinating to me. If they do well, I hope for the very best for them. If they don't do well, it happens. The one thing that I'm curious about, though, is, and this is only slightly related, but I'm already curious about what the fate of Free is going to be, because they have that series on their website as an example of a series that they had their hand in. Funimation licensed the second season, but now what's going to be the fate of the first season? And
Okay,
I'm already curious about that.
I don't know if they have international rights for that. I know like some stuff they have domestic rights, but not international rights. Like, for example, Clannad, Aaron Cannon, they have all the domestic rights in Japan, but all the international rights are through TBS International. So I don't know if, or like, for example, even like say Attack on Titan, they have domestic rights in Japan, but international rights are through Kodansha. Now I know they have the movie listed, so I don't know if they are. And I'm looking here at the international licensing, and I don't know when that was last updated. I mean,
yeah, it gets a little nebulous because they've been a partner in a lot of production committees because they're associated with or they have the same the same parent company as Fuji TV. But it's hard. Like Anthony says, it's hard to tell what they actually have the rights to.
Yeah, I saw that listed on their website as an example of something that they've had their hand in, and that automatically just set my mind in curiosity mode, wondering, what the fate of that series is going to be. But yeah, I mean, to get back on the primary topic, like I said, they're in for a troublesome first year. Every major company that forms seems to have a troublesome first year. Right. NISA certainly had their share of troubles when they first started. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with them and if they can manage to navigate the treacherous waters.
Yeah, I think largely it comes down to what their stated goals are, i.e., by their parent company. I feel like Aniplex America stays alive because their parent company has set goals that are completely manageable in such a large market, but don't really explore the kinds of revenues that they could get from this size of a market, if that makes sense. I was also going to say, as far as Pony Canyon, I don't really have like I was looking. I had the opportunity because I have all of my boxes out of storage to look through all of my Japanese music, and I knew that I had some music that was produced by Pony Canyon, but I couldn't really remember for sure. And I was actually a little bit surprised by how few things there were. But it's also a little bit notable what they were. But I really only have stuff from one show and one artist, and the show is it's Oh My Goddess, the original OVA, and also they did the soundtrack for the movie. So I know that Pony Canyon is sort of in charge of the rights for some amount of the Oh My Goddess franchise, music-wise. And also the artist, Mikuni Shimokawa. And she may not, I don't know if she's as well known today as she was back when Full Metal Panic came out, and she did the theme songs for that. But I found that interesting. It's like, I thought I had all this Pony Canyon stuff, and it was really just those two things. And the overwhelming majority of what I had was JVC and their various subsidiaries, Victor Entertainment, etc. I thought Pony Canyon was a much bigger player than, maybe they are in anime. So it's hard to tell just from what I know, how well they're going to do or how well they're known.
Mm-hmm.
It's time for Pony Canyon watch. See where they are at after a year.
Yeah, and I can't underscore just how much Japanese music I bought in that period of time. But most of it is JVC. There's some King Records, and there's some Polystar, which is really Square, and etc.
We're really going to see what tone they want to take with their first actual announcements for releases. At this point, it's completely, we're just talking about a Phantom. We may as well be talking about Ghosts and Phantoms, I guess, because we have the marketing spin, we have their first items, but until we get something concrete, something that we can actually gauge actual product value, actual intent of approach, we're kind of just shooting in the dark on this.
My sense is that they'll try to be a competitor to Aniplex, but they may not do as well because their stuff isn't as well known and or popular.
Yeah, I mean, Aniplex has the benefit of being, Aniplex.
Yeah, I mean, they're involved. I mean, Pony Canyon's involved in a lot of stuff, but we don't really know about that stuff in the domestic market so much as we know, okay, this is Aniplex Saturday. Almost everything is from them, that sort of thing.
Right.
And Sony is, if nothing else, good at tooting their horn. They make sure that everybody knows that everything they see that is Sony is, that they know it. Yeah. That was a little bit roundabout.
Yeah, it makes sense. It does definitely make sense. I'll be honest. With their press releases, they are probably the quickest ones to get into me. Once something gets announced, it's in your mailbox. So they definitely do have that messaging down pat. But it really will depend with Pony Canyon.
Aniplex really is just a marketing arm of Sony. I mean, I don't know if they really exist for any other purpose. They don't completely control production of anything that they do. They just contribute money and rake in money as the things sell.
True.
I'm just going to say this one thing. It's good to always see another company coming to the market, especially after we said goodbye to another company, even though that's a completely different company. But like I said, it's always good to see one come through. And it would definitely be interesting to see what strategy they go for.
Absolutely.
I can appreciate that. I mean, it's AN going away was expected, but still sad.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised though. I had a new competitor pegged for 2015, so they came early.
I'm just kind of curious whenever Media Blasters finally kicks the bucket, or if they ever just somehow just able to keep enough to keep afloat for a few more years before dying.
Are you kidding? As long as they have that much porn, they're never going to go
Exactly. They got B movies and porn. They'll be around forever.
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, they just took a different tack from like Animego, who they still both of them still sell anime, but Animego took the higher road, I would say, and they sell samurai stuff, and they stay at a small enough size that they can get by with the profits from that. But when you're selling porn, who's your only adversary? It's pretty much Right Stuff.
Pretty much.
The hentai market's pretty much dead here. The hentai manga, the H mangas are doing pretty well. Project H is doing, I think they're doing pretty good. And now we got Faku's coming in here. I don't know when they're going to have their books out. I mean, I know we're going way off topic here, but
yeah, now we're kind of drifting. So I think here's a good place to wrap the show.
Yeah,
I think Pony Canyon was naturally drawn to porn. I just want to say,
especially with the name like Pony Canyon.
Yeah. On the plus side, at least we can say that if
got to go to the Pony Can.
Oh, on the plus side, at least we can say that if they fail in the U.S. market, they were a bunch of horses' asses. Bad joke, I know.
Come on, it's not even out yet.
I just want to say one more thing. I welcome subsidiaries of Japanese companies entering the market. But it seems like every single time they just want to buck the market in some way, Like they want to, generally it comes down to price. They feel like they should be able to make the same profits on their offerings that they do in Japan, and it's just never going to happen.
Well, in the
U.S. market.
Okay, well, in some cases you are buying, like, I know with some Aniplex releases, that's not many. You're getting an import, so you're going to pay an import price. You're not going to pay, like, the same price as, say, like, if Sentai got it, or Funimation got it, or...
Well, it's all imports. None of this stuff was produced in the U.S.
Right. So you're going to pay a different price than...
That's what they want you to accept. And...
Right.
Yeah, I think most people don't. But, enough people do that they keep the subsidiary alive until, I don't know what.
I mean, like I said, I don't dislike Aniplex. I like them. They sometimes get things I'm interested in, but they're not putting out shows I want to buy, so me not getting stuff from them isn't a matter of, I'm just sticking it to the man by not buying their stuff. It's a case of, they're just not getting what I want to own.
I'm not sure I ever said I dislike Aniplex.
No, I'm not. I'm not saying that.
Well, I've defended them from a market perspective.
Yeah.
I think that
I'm defending them too.
That they feel that they can get that price and keep themselves alive, and they mostly do. So,
I mean, I'm just saying, as well.
I'm just saying that this seems to be a common thread with the subsidiaries of Japanese companies. Either they follow a Bandai or Janyon track, and they are doomed to fail because they have to pay too high of prices for their licenses, or they follow a BVUSA or Aniplex track, and they just assume that they're not going to sell that many units, and they charge exorbitant prices for them.
Or maybe they do all of the above. I don't know how you do that, but it can happen.
Oh, anyway.
All right, well, that's our show, everyone. Remember to subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, and if you download Blueberry, and give us a rating. It really helps out. So, till next time, I'm Mike Ferrer, signing off.
I'm Anthony Simpson, who's not currently in the basement this time.
Impossible.
I'm Dorian Chadwick.
Matt Brown.
LB Bryant.
And I want to give an extra special thanks to LB Bryant. Can you tell people where they can reach you?
You can find me at otakureview.net, or you can find me on Twitter at otakureview.
All right, and thanks again for joining us. And thank you for joining us tonight, listeners. I hope you'll have a great night.